Hello, today I'm going to go over Freshwater Ecology Notes 4.3, talking about aquatic food chains. So at the base of any food chain, we're going to find our primary producers, things like aquatic plants, algae, and phytoplankton, which are little microscopic plant-like organisms that go through photosynthesis. Our primary producers are also known as autotrophs, and they're going to be organisms that can produce their own food, and they go through the process of photosynthesis to make that food. Now, once they've made the food, they need to be able to break it down in order to release the energy inside. And so in order to release energy from the food, so the sugars, the glucose, if you remember from freshman biology, they have to go through cellular respiration to get the energy they need for growth and reproduction. Animals cannot do that. Animals must eat. Sometimes they eat plants. Sometimes they eat animals. Sometimes they eat dead organic matter in order to get the energy and the nutrients they require. Dead organic matter is also referred to as detritus. So here we've got a bird. He's eating another animal, a fish, and then we've got a little catfish, and he's going to be eating the detritus. So in a food chain, we use food chains. They're going to be pathways from which energy and nutrients are transferred from plants to animals, and we diagram that in a food chain. So if our plants were our autotrophs, our animals or consumers are going to be called heterotrophs, and they're relying on organic matter as a source of food. Our consumers can be divided up into a couple different types. There's primary consumers, also called herbivores. These are the plant eaters. Then there are these secondary consumers, which feed on the herbivores or the plant eaters. And now, depending on what that plant eater might be, the secondary consumer can also be described as an invertivore, a planktivore, a carnivore, or an omnivore. And then following the secondary consumer group would be our top level of carnivores, the tertiary consumer group. Then we have our detritivores, or the scavengers, and these are going to eat dead organic matter, the detritus. Think like the vultures you see eating roadkill on the side of a road. That would be a scavenger. In the aquatic environment, many of our freshwater ecosystems, that role is fulfilled by catfish. Then the final link in the food chain are the decomposers, so the bacteria and fungi that break down remaining tissue to release nutrients for use by the primary producers in the ecosystem. So here's our major components. Our freshwater ecosystems, all energy is going to originate with the sun, captured by the producers, and then distributed both to the consumers and the decomposers. Nutrients in the environment, they're going to be used by the plants, returned by the decomposers, and then there's the gases, the oxygen and the carbon dioxide. In a food chain are different levels. So when we talk about producers and consumers, we're talking about trophic levels. And the trophic levels help to describe the passage of energy through the food chain. Any ecosystem is going to have a finite number. There is a limit on the amount of energy and how much is efficiently transferred. When organisms become bigger, they become less efficient. And so most ecosystems only have about 4 to 5 trophic levels. One way in which we can demonstrate trophic levels, looking at either biomass or the number of organisms or the amount of energy, is through an ecological pyramid. This one is showing biomass, and we can see the box of relative numbers in which we've got a large number of producers followed by a smaller portion of primary, secondary, and tertiary consumers. You notice these numbers. This is the energy going from 1,000 to 100 to 10 to 1. Things are decreasing. In the case of energy decreases, only 10% gets passed on. So as we go from a plant to an animal, that animal only gets 10% of the energy available in the plant. So we're having that reduced efficiency. Individuals that are larger in size need more energy. So that helps. So we're going to be getting limits. And then lastly, our food webs. In any ecosystem, most organisms have more than one food source. You don't eat just one thing. Neither do fish and other animals. They eat lots of things. And so we can combine a food chain into a food web to try to show some of the more complexity that is true of real life.